Imagine a world teetering on the edge of a technological revolution, yet held back by one massive obstacle: money. Not just any money, but trillions of dollars needed to turn the clean energy dreams of entire nations into reality. Here's the plot twist. Almost all the growth, all the opportunity, all the global action now depends on decisions made in boardrooms and ministries across developing and emerging economies. But why? And what could possibly unlock this unprecedented wave of investment just in time to steer us away from climate disaster? Just days ago, in the buzzing heart of Rio de Janeiro, a high-stakes summit quietly set the stage for what could become a seismic shift in global energy and finance. While the world's attention is often fixed on flashy tech launches or political summits, something far more consequential was brewing: the launch of the Global Coalition for Energy Planning, or GCEP. Its mission? To make the world's most urgent and elusive opportunity, clean energy investment, not only possible, but irresistible. Let's back up. Why now and why should you care? The world is quite simply not on track. According to the International Energy Agency, we are lagging dangerously far behind climate goals. If current trends persist, the vision of a decarbonized, sustainable energy future remains a distant mirage. The IEA's stark warning: annual clean energy investment in emerging and developing economies must more than triple to roughly $2.8 trillion every single year by 2030. That's not a typo. That's trillion with a T. Now try to imagine where that money is supposed to come from. Governments alone don't have it. Multilateral banks and climate funds, important as they are, only scratch the surface. The real difference maker? Private capital, largely sitting on the sidelines, wary of risks, complexity, and opaque processes in many developing markets. Enter the idea behind GCEP. Francesco Lacamera, Director General of the International Renewable Energy Agency, sums it up crisply. Although significant investment opportunities exist in emerging markets and developing economies, perceived risks remain a key barrier to investment, particularly from private sources. And therein lies the paradox. Opportunity abounds: solar in Africa, wind in Latin America, green hydrogen potential in Asia. Yet investors hesitate, paralyzed by unclear frameworks, inconsistent policies, and the absence of bankable, investment-ready energy strategies. It's like having a gold mine under your house, but the road to reach it is full of potholes, and nobody's drawn you a map. This is where detailed, transparent, and robust energy planning becomes not just a bureaucratic exercise, but a high-stakes, global game-changer. The story starts, perhaps surprisingly, with Brazil. Brazil, a country famous for its natural bounty and a world leader in hydropower, has spent the past decade refining its approach to national energy planning. Through rigorous scenario modeling and partnerships with international agencies, Brazil has shown that long-term, investment-aligned planning can pay off, reducing risks, attracting more private money, and strengthening local economies. That's why Brazil, holding the G20 presidency in 2024, chose to put energy planning in the global spotlight. Teaming up with IRENA, Brazil helped launch the GCEP, designed to empower fellow developing economies to craft and execute their own investment-ready energy strategies. At the summit in Rio, ministers, financiers, and planners from dozens of countries shared one urgent realization: without a new way to plan and coordinate, the clean energy transition will stall before it really begins. High-level participants didn't talk just about technology. They discussed mapping risk, building transparent regulatory frameworks, and, critically, how to make projects so attractive that even the most risk-averse investors have to pay attention. Here, a key lesson emerges. A robust national energy plan isn't just a technical document. It's an invitation to the world's capital markets, a buy-in that says, "Come and build the future with us." But what is GCEP truly? Think of it as a global control center to coordinate, guide, and support energy planning in developing and emerging economies. It's not another talk shop. As the newly appointed Secretariat, IRENA offers what few organizations can: almost universal membership, a deep well of technical expertise, and a track record in brokering North-South and, importantly, South-South cooperation. The coalition's founding members signed onto a shared letter of principles. Among their ambitions, to help standardize planning processes, share best practices, and crucially, help countries build detailed roadmaps that align with both national development priorities and global climate goals. In short, GCEP aims to unlock investment by reducing risk and shining a spotlight of predictability and transparency into often murky markets. As Alexander Silveira, Brazil's Minister of Mines and Energy, put it, promoting a just and effective energy transition necessarily requires recognizing the leadership of developing countries. On paper, this is revolutionary. For years, energy planning in much of the world has been fragmented, short-term, or dictated by outside donors and interests. Now there's a promise of locally driven, globally informed strategies that not only meet climate targets but create jobs, reduce poverty, and stabilize economies. Let's not be naive, though. The hurdles are enormous. First, money. That $2.8 trillion annual target for emerging markets alone, it's more than double the entire annual GDP of Brazil. And this isn't a one-off, it's every year for at least a decade. Second, the so-called pipeline problem. Many countries simply don't have enough investment-grade projects lined up, meaning even willing investors have nowhere to go. Third, and perhaps most dangerous, political risk. Energy plans can look fantastic on paper, but they can unravel overnight with a change in government, social unrest, or economic shocks. Investors remember countries' past defaults or abrupt policy U-turns. The result? They either demand sky-high returns or stay away. Expert Kingsmill Bond from RMI cuts to the chase. Investment in renewables is key for developing countries to achieve SDGs and address climate change, but faces significant financial barriers. It's not just money, knowledge matters too. Latin America, for instance, needs to mobilize private capital on a massive scale to hit its renewable energy targets, according to an IDB report. But investors need detailed, credible information about policy stability, expected returns, and potential partners. And so, GCEP aims to bridge this knowledge-action gap. One of its core functions? Knowledge sharing, country-to-country learning, real-world case studies, and technical assistance to help countries evolve from vague aspirations to bankable plans. But what does that look like in practice? Imagine a new wind farm in West Africa, conceived in partnership with global experts, planned with robust local consultation, and de-risked by insurance and guarantees coordinated under GCEP's framework. Suddenly, the project isn't just a hopeful dream, it's a viable, attractive asset for international pension funds, local banks, and even tech giants looking for reliable green power. Yet beneath the optimism, GCEP faces a series of tough, even existential challenges. First, will enough countries sign on with real commitment, not only to planning, but to the hard work of policy reform and implementation? Second, does the world's constellation of climate coalitions, think climate investment funds, the World Bank, and global philanthropic alliances, leave room for yet another player? Or will GCEP risk duplicating efforts, or, worse still, getting lost amid bureaucratic turf wars? Third, and perhaps most daunting, what about geopolitics? With energy security rising on political agendas, some governments may be tempted to revert to fossil fuels in times of crisis, or resist transparency that might reveal domestic weaknesses. The result could be stagnation, or even regression, just as the world needs acceleration. Still, despite these obstacles, a window of opportunity has opened. Recent months have seen a shift in tone, especially in the global south, where climate ambition is finally aligning with economic opportunity. Investors, once exclusively focused on Europe and North America, are now actively eyeing markets from India to Nigeria to Brazil. Those countries that can present a compelling, detailed, and credible energy plan, even if imperfect, may find themselves catapulted to the front of the investment queue. But will it work? That's the billion, or more accurately, trillion-dollar question. Will the global coalition for energy planning succeed in slashing risk, attracting the tidal wave of private capital, and turning climate commitments into real infrastructure on the ground? Or will it stumble, bogged down by old rivalries, new crises, or simply the sheer complexity of the challenge? As the first ministers sign the letter of principles and experts hail a new era of coordination, the world waits. The next steps will determine not just the fate of GCEP, but the possibility of a livable, prosperous future powered by clean, sustainable energy. The stage is set, but the stakes have never been higher. What exactly will it take to move from aspirational planning to boots-in-the-mud action, and who stands to gain or lose the most as the clean energy investment race heats up? Stay tuned. But what happens next? The launch of the Global Coalition for Energy Planning, GCEP, marks just the opening chapter in what could become one of the defining stories of our era. Whether humanity can mobilize the resources, willpower, and collaboration needed to transform energy systems in the world's emerging economies. Imagine the future if this coalition succeeds. Entire regions currently struggling with energy poverty could leapfrog old, polluting technologies, unlocking a wave of prosperity powered by clean, affordable electricity. Rural hospitals in sub-Saharan Africa, factories in South Asia, homes in remote parts of Latin America, all reliably powered by wind, sun, and innovation, rather than oil or coal. But let's not sugarcoat it. The scale of change required is staggering. Right now, emerging markets collectively attract only a fraction of what's needed. The International Energy Agency estimates that we need to triple current investment, up to $2.8 trillion annually, by 2030. For context, that's almost the entire economic output of countries like France or India every single year, redirected into clean energy growth. Yet there are hopeful signs. Brazil, the host of the G7 launch and co-chair of the coalition, offers a living experiment in how good planning and stable policies can catalyze investment. According to Brazil's own energy transition policy, the country has managed to attract billions from both public and, critically, private investors. Why? Because investors saw that Brazil had a credible long-term plan, and that's exactly what G7 hopes to replicate globally. Francesco Lacamera, Director General of IRENA, put it this way: Brazil has demonstrated how long-term energy planning, which incorporates investment-ready strategies, can help reduce those risks, attract private capital, scale up renewables, and strengthen local supply chains. But what happens if G7 falters? If the world fails to deliver on these promises, the consequences would be severe. Energy-poor communities would keep relying on fossil fuels, locking in generations of pollution and missed opportunity. The clean energy gap would widen, leaving climate goals a distant dream. Political instability, linked to volatile energy prices and missed development opportunities, could even threaten global security. So what determines whether G7 delivers? Let's walk through the key opportunities and risks shaping this global gamble. First, the upside. If G7 can help governments create energy plans that investors trust, we could see a cascade of private capital, banks, pension funds, and impact investors hungry for stable, long-term projects, flowing into solar parks, wind farms, green grids, and battery storage in places that need them most. Not only could this accelerate emissions cuts, but it would also create jobs, improve health outcomes, and lay the foundation for new industries in the global south. Second, G7's focus on South-South cooperation, helping countries across Africa, Asia, and Latin America learn from each other, could break the old pattern of dependence on donors from the global north. As Kingsmill Bond, an energy strategist at RMI, says, this is an opportunity for developing countries to drive their own transitions, using their own strengths. Imagine a knowledge exchange where Brazil's hydropower lessons help Indonesia's grid, or South Africa's wind expertise empowers Egypt's solar ambitions. But every opportunity comes with risk. G7 faces some daunting headwinds and funding gaps. Will governments and donors actually step up with the billions required for early-stage planning and project preparation, not just building physical infrastructure? Political instability. Changing governments or policy reversals could undermine years of careful planning overnight. Overlapping mandates. With so many international organizations in the energy space, G7 must avoid becoming another talking shop. It needs sharp focus and real accountability. Geopolitical shocks. Trade wars, regional conflicts, or supply chain disruptions could derail even the best-laid energy plans. According to a recent UN climate change report, international cooperation is essential for accelerating the energy transition in developing countries. And that's where G7's promise really lies. It creates a new vehicle for aligning diverse interests behind one shared goal. So, as we look ahead, what practical lessons can we draw from this unfolding story? How can you, as a viewer, make sense of these developments and even play a role? The first lesson is that energy transformation isn't just a technical or financial puzzle. It's deeply political and, ultimately, personal. The choices made at summits in Rio or Abu Dhabi affect the price of electricity in Jakarta, the jobs created in Nairobi, and the air your family breathes in Sao Paulo or Mumbai. Second, transparency and planning matter. Investors, whether large institutions or individuals like you and me, thrive on certainty. When governments demonstrate credible, data-driven plans, they send a powerful signal that slashes risk and attracts capital. If you're passionate about climate action, the G7 story offers a reminder. Systemic change rarely happens overnight, but coalitions, when built on trust, shared expertise, and relentless focus on results, can shift the global conversation. Maybe you work in the financial sector. The next decade will see a historic reallocation of capital, And there's a powerful role for professionals who can structure deals, measure risk, and identify local partners in emerging markets. Are you a policymaker, entrepreneur, or student? The skills in energy modeling, data analysis, and cross-cultural communication will only become more valuable. The world needs more leaders who can navigate both global negotiations and local realities, and GCEP might offer opportunities to participate in pilot programs, research collaborations, or public dialogues. For everyone else, remember, awareness drives accountability. Stay engaged by following the progress of GCEP, demanding transparency from your local leaders, and supporting policies that align economic development with climate resilience. Most importantly, realize that the energy story of the next decade is being written right now. Whether you see yourself as an activist, a technologist, or simply a concerned global citizen, your voice counts. Raise it, in your community, online, or even just around the dinner table. Energy transitions succeed when they're backed by broad public support, not just technocratic plans. So, can the Global Coalition for Energy Planning deliver on its promise? Or will it be thwarted by the complexity of political and financial realities? The answer is more optimistic than you might think, if, and only if, coalition members turn ambitious words into measurable action. The secret fact is this: the foundations for this transformative shift are already in place, often invisible to those not following global energy politics. Quietly, in conference rooms and policy labs from Brasilia to Nairobi, planners are running the numbers, mapping resources, and drafting the next generation of grid blueprints. The grand announcements are just the tip of the iceberg. Beneath them lies a deep current of innovation and quiet determination. Brazil's growing role points to a new era, where emerging economies are not just recipients of aid, but originators of solutions, shaping the global agenda in their own image. The coalition is betting that the Global South can teach, not just learn. Here's what you can do. Stay informed. Push for accountability. Demand that your government, or your investments, support sustainable and inclusive energy growth. Look for ways to amplify the message that smart planning is not a luxury, but a necessity. And if you're inspired, don't just watch the transition. Join it. Whether through your work, your studies, your investments, or your voice, every contribution matters. If you enjoyed this deep dive, subscribe for more insights into how global decisions shape our energy future. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. What role should your country play in this great clean energy transformation? And if you want to follow up on how GCEP is progressing after its